I've seen too many people ruin themselves by doing exactly what they were told was the right thing to do. And I'm not talking about irresponsible people. I'm not talking about people who spent everything on luxuries or lived beyond their means. I'm talking about people who did everything right. They saved money. They were careful. They followed the advice of their parents, their banks, the experts. And still, they ended up in trouble. If you think you're safe just because you do what you're supposed to do, I ask you to stay until the end of this video. Because what I'm about to tell you is not theory. It's something I've seen happen so many times that I've lost count. Let me talk to you about something I learned a long time ago, and that I wish someone had explained to me when I was younger. There is a huge difference between doing things right and doing the right things. It sounds the same, but it isn't. Doing things right means following the rules, meeting expectations, staying on the marked path. Doing the right things means understanding why those rules exist, who they were designed for, and whether they really benefit you or someone else. And here's the problem. Most of the financial advice we receive was not designed with us in mind. It was designed for institutions, for products, for systems that need you to act in a certain way so they can function. And when you follow those rules without questioning them, sometimes you win. But many times, you lose without even realizing you're losing. I'm going to tell you a story that I've seen repeated many times, with small variations, but always the same ending. I met a couple, let's call them Elena and Marcos. Hard-working, responsible people with 2 children. They did everything they were supposed to do. They bought a house with a 30-year mortgage because they were told that renting was throwing money away. They took out a pension plan because they were told it was the best way to prepare for the future. They kept their savings in the bank because they were told it was the safest option. And every month, after paying the mortgage, the pension plan, insurance, and fixed expenses, there was very little left. But they felt calm. They were doing things right. Years went by. The mortgage was still there, taking up a huge part of their income. The pension plan was growing, but they couldn't touch it. Their savings in the bank were losing value every year because of inflation, even though the number in the account looked the same. And then something they didn't expect happened. A health problem. Reduced working hours. One unexpected expense that turned into 3. And suddenly, the whole structure they had built over decades started to shake. They had no liquidity, no flexibility, no room to move. They had assets, yes, but assets they couldn't use. They had security, in theory, but a kind of security that didn't help when they needed it most. And this is where I want you to stop for a moment. Because what happened to Elena and Marcos wasn't bad luck. It was the result of following a system that rewards obedience, but not understanding. A system that tells you what to do, but never explains why. And when you don't understand the why, you can't adapt when circumstances change. The financial belief that destroyed this couple, and that destroys millions of people, is very simple. It's the idea that if you follow the established path, you'll be protected. Buy a house, save in a pension plan, don't take risks, and everything will be fine. But no one tells you the other side of the story. No one explains that a 30-year mortgage means that for most of your productive life, a huge part of your money goes to interest, not to building wealth. No one tells you that a pension plan is money you can't access until a certain age, under tax conditions that can change, and with returns that often barely beat inflation. No one warns you that having money in the bank is not the same as having money working for you. And this is what frustrates me. It's not that these products are bad in themselves. It's that they are presented as the only option, as the correct path, as what responsible people do. And when everyone does the same thing without questioning it, when everyone follows the same advice without understanding it, a collective illusion of security is created, one that collapses at the first strong wind. Let me explain the mechanism in a very simple way. When you buy a house with a mortgage, in the first years, most of what you pay is interest. The bank gets its money first. You build wealth later. That means that if in the first 10 or 15 years you need to sell, it's very possible you haven't gained much. Or worse, that you've lost money if the market went down. Meanwhile, during all those years, the money you paid in interest could have been generating returns for you somewhere else. I'm not saying don't buy a house. I'm saying understand what you're doing when you buy one. The same thing happens with pension plans. They tell you the advantage is tax-related, that you deduct now and pay later. But what they don't explain is that when you withdraw that money, you'll probably be in a similar or even higher tax bracket if you've done well in life. And you'll have had that money locked away for decades, unable to use it for opportunities that could have been far more profitable. On top of that, the fees many of these products charge eat up a significant part of the returns. Small amounts each year that, compounded over 30 years, turn into tens of thousands of euros you'll never see. And savings in the bank. This may be the hardest part to explain. When you have money in a current account or a deposit that pays almost nothing, and inflation is 3, 4, or 5% a year, your money loses value every day. You don't see it because the number doesn't change, but what you can buy with that money does. It's an invisible, silent, constant loss. And yet, millions of people believe that keeping money in the bank is being prudent. It's not prudence. It's lack of knowledge disguised as security. The consequences show up in the medium and long term. People who worked their whole lives and reach retirement with a pension that isn't enough and assets they can't use. People who had to sell their house at the worst possible time because they had no liquidity. People who never invested because they were told it was dangerous and who now see how their purchasing power has been cut in half. People who did everything right and still aren't where they thought they'd be. And it's not their fault. It's a system that rewards conformity and punishes curiosity. A system where asking too many questions is seen as distrust, and where following the marked path is presented as a virtue. But real financial virtue is not obedience. It's understanding. It's asking uncomfortable questions. It's realizing that the advice you receive doesn't always come from people who have your best interests at heart. I've spent many years observing these patterns. I've seen very intelligent people make these mistakes because no one taught them to think differently. And I've seen people with very limited resources build solid financial lives simply because they learned to question what they were told. The reflection I want to leave you with today is this. I'm not asking you to distrust everything. I'm not asking you to reject advice from others. I'm asking for something simpler, but harder. Before following any financial advice, ask yourself one question. Who benefits if I do this? If the answer is not you, or not mainly you, then you need to stop and think. Because financial ruin rarely arrives all at once. It comes little by little, disguised as prudent decisions, well-intentioned advice, and doing what everyone else does. And when you realize it, it's already too late to change course. Don't let that happen to you. Not because of fear, but because you deserve to understand the rules of the game before you play it. Because your money is your time turned into numbers. And your time is the one thing you can never get back.